Welcome to Scandinavia, everybody, and the hobby room. So today is Thursday and I'm gonna do a little tabletop talk, a Tamiya Thursday talk. And today we got this one on the table. Now, granted, this is not the most well-known, popular or most beloved Tamiya of all times, but as we go along in this talk, it will make perfectly good sense why I am starting out with this one. Now, with this series, I have actually planned a little script that I will try to follow with each video and each car. So briefly in the beginning, we will talk about the model and chassis, a brief introduction. We're gonna do a little short review, my personal opinions, and we're gonna do some talking about the upgrades and modifications available. And then lastly, we're gonna do a little talk about my car, my personal history behind this model, and my reasons for buying this and having it in my collection. This one is the Tamiya Mighty Bull XB Pro from 2004. XB stands for expert build, so it's a factory assembled, ready to run truck. There are no assembly kit versions available for this particular model. Its number is 57727, which means that it is an expert build model number 27. And it's a 1/10 scale two-wheel drive monster truck based on the WT-01 chassis. I'm not gonna dive deep into the chassis history. I might do a comparison of the WT-01 and the WR-01 in a later video. But yeah, in general, this WT-01 is a two-wheel drive version derived from the WR-01 chassis. Now that one first saw its light with the Wild Dagger from 1999 and soon followed with the Twin Detonator from 2003. The Twin Detonator body was actually reused for this one, so the Mighty Bull got a Twin Detonator body with some new decals and paint scheme. The year before this release, this RTR release, the Blackfoot Extreme from 2003 was released, which was the first two-wheel drive version of the four-wheel drive Wild Dagger. So essentially this is a combination of the Twin Detonator with the body and the assembly kit Blackfoot Extreme, and just a hybrid of those two put together in 2004. Let's take a look at the chassis itself. So it's of course held together with 4 R-clips. So this is a polycarbonate body, perfectly painted and applied some decals by Tamiya themselves. The WT-01 is a monocoque based chassis, which means it has these two sides. They are symmetrical and identical, and then held together here with some bars. So it got a gearbox in the rear, it's a rear wheel drive, and a bulkhead in the front. This was actually where there used to be an identical gearbox in the WR-01, the four-wheel drive version. So on the bulkhead we have a small shock tower here attached, or damper stay as Tamiya likes to call it, and we got a fully double wishbone suspension in both the front and rear. We got some uprights here and some knuckle arms in the rear with the drive shaft. The drive shaft and wheel shafts are metal, not the sturdiest ones, but still quite sturdy, and most of these come stock with these tiny little springs. I think Tamiya calls them friction shocks, but they are actually just pogo sticks. So in general, if you don't do anything about it, it's a classic bouncy monster truck ride from Tamiya. We got the motor on the right side here. It's a silver can. This is actually the stock motor which most of these come with. The silver can 27 turn brushed motor from Tamiya. And then we got the driveline or the transmission gears and the driveline. Battery compartment is located underneath the car right here. So as you can see, it's a rounded one, which of course has its limitations. Wheels off, we can see that it's a 12mm hex wheel adapter here, standard system. And then we got a 12mm hex wheel here. What is interesting about this one is that unlike many other Tamiya two-wheel drives, it actually has a 12mm hex in the front here too. So the tires are absolutely identical front and rear. So this is of course because it derives from the WT-01, where we actually got a gearbox here with a driveline wheel axles out here in the front. But on this one, it's of course removed, and what we have left is a free spinning 12mm system here in the uprights. Another interesting factor derived from the family line from the WT-01 is of course that you can turn this into a four-wheel drive, replacing the bulkhead and getting some axles here just identical to the rear, and then you will have a four-wheel drive. At the same time, you can also, because this is a symmetrical chassis, you can place a servo here and some steering linkages, and you can make it a four-wheel drive steering. Now both the WT-01 and the WT-01 here are extremely low geared. I think it's a gear ratio of 1:18, so there's definitely not much top speed, but lots of torque and acceleration. Why I'm trying to show you this, if I can get it in the camera, is that you do have an option of changing the stock sized 18-tooth pinion gear with a 20-tooth pinion gear. So yeah, the gear mesh is fixed, but from an 18-tooth to a 20-tooth you will get a little additional top speed. Now for the review or buyer's guide, I can absolutely say that I personally have loved running these, but at the same time you have to be into Tamiya in general to enjoy this. So it's a chassis that is extremely enjoyable to work on or to modify even. And yeah, you just get the best of the 1980s monster truck experience running these, even with the bouncy pogo stick suspension setup. But if you're into some 1980s fun, this is of course a 1999 or 2004 chassis, but it's kind of does the job that corrects all the mistakes from the 1980s ORV chassis and so on, and makes it a little more durable and a little more modern with the double wishbone suspension and all, but still a very basic Tamiya setup and a very enjoyable basic run experience. Now it definitely seems that Tamiya has stopped the production of these. The last one was released in 2015 with the Amarok, and yeah, they're getting rarer and rarer, but I think there are still plenty of second-hand models around, and I think some of the models like the Mud Blaster 2, the assembly kits are still available somewhere around. But yeah, it's definitely not a modern car. You get what you get. It's a Tamiya, it's a vintage already, you can say, with 21 years or 22 years of history, and that's exactly what you get with these. Should you get one? Well, if you're a Tamiya enthusiast, I think this is a fun chassis to build and to run. If you're not, then go look for something else. that is more modern and perhaps also even more affordable than this one. Durability, I think this is one of the most durable monster trucks or chassis made by Tamiya, but it also has something to do with the stock motor here and the gearing. So there's not much top speed, and if you do not have much top speed, you do not have many serious crashes. So if you upgrade this to a brushless version, I think it definitely needs a lot of power with that gear ratio to keep it up in speed. You will might experience that it isn't that durable. I have had this one since 2014, and the only thing that I have broken 12mm wheel axle adapters, but I also have a small crack in the front shock tower here, and that's about it. And I have definitely run it 20, 30, 40 times. As far as I have seen here in 2021, all spare parts for this truck is still available around the world. But about the modifications and upgrades, there have been some of the upgrades have started to disappear. In the old days you could actually get carbon chassis or metal chassis for this from different brands than Tamiya. But you can still get arms and knuckle arms, uprights and everything, and upper arms in metal for this one. Of course you can also get the GPM shock towers. I have this on another one I do keep in the collection, which allows for extended oil-filled shocks. If you want to upgrade these ones without changing the shock tower height, you will need 65mm oil-filled shocks. For the ball bearings upgrade, now these all come with the bushings. You need 16 1150 ball bearings in total for the whole truck. So it's one size but 16 in total, and you will be good to go. And then of course you have an option of changing the pinion out here for a 20 tooth, and especially change the alloy aluminium stock pinion for a steel pinion. It's a 0.8 modular pinion. Since it's got the 12mm hex adapter standard system, you can always replace the wheels with other standard 12mm. Just one thing, you need to find the right amount of offset or the right amount of space to make space for these giant uprights here. These are always equipped with the Monster Beetle tires with the spikes. The spikes has worn out with this one, but yeah, you can pretty much put any kind of Tamiya monster truck tire on these wheels. The rounded battery compartment, as I mentioned, of course limits the use of modern square batteries or even larger NiCads or NIMs. I think the largest one I have had successfully in this is a 3600 milliamps per hour. So yeah, I've seen people trying to mount batteries in the top or making their own trays in top here, and you can certainly do that, but it requires some creativity and time from your side. As with any other hobby grade model, you can always replace the stock ESC and the stock 27 turn brushed motor here. It has some strong gears in my experience, and you can pretty much put whatever motor you want to in this, but the higher speed, the more serious crashes, of course. One thing I have done with this is also replace the plastic servo mounts here with some metal ones, but it do have this problem with the plastic one that it shakes the servo loose. They are plastic made of very soft plastic, so it shakes the servo loose and you will get a lot of wobble, and all that leads to my personal unit here. So I have replaced the ESC, I have replaced the servo and receiver, I have gotten some servo metal mounts, I have a 20 tooth steel pinion in this, and yeah, of course 1150 ball bearings, and that's about it. All the rest is all stock. It did come with this old-fashioned XB electronics, so I definitely changed the servos for a bit higher and waterproof, and an Arma servo waterproof. And as you can see, I still run it with the stock 27 turn motor here. Partly because my son has a similar truck, a WT-01 with the same motor, and we got the two trucks specified to the same amount of torque and speed, so we can have some good races. Now we are at last getting to the end. I'm still trying to learn to keep these videos in a short version, but it's just difficult if you want to cover some of the basic specification and all that. But at the end here, this unit is actually my first Tamiya, and that's the reason why I'm starting this series about my collection with this one. So I got this in 2014. I'm a very late bloomer when it comes to Tamiya. In the 80s I used to run Tayo and Niku and all that, and didn't know about Tamiya or hobby grade RCs, just whatever was available from the local toy store. But when I returned to the hobby in 2013, I soon discovered Niku and Tayo's connection to Tamiya, and I soon discovered Tamiya. And then one day there was this model up for sale. It was a brand new one, never been run, and it was extremely affordable. And my girlfriend was working that day in the same town where this was available secondhand, so she drove by, picked it up from me, and the rest is history. And that was pretty much the start of my Tamiya collection. I still run this. I have just rebuilt it last year, cleaned it all up and rebuilt it, so it's definitely good to go for this season, and will definitely appear in some run videos this season. I think that pretty much covers my effort of trying to present you with an introduction and overview of the WT-01 Mighty Bull from Tamiya. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. If you have any additional information, please leave it in the comment section. Now I will, at the same time of doing these videos, I will try to upload my Facebook page with some pictures and some specifications, and I will definitely also try to fit them into the description box of this video. Please feel free to subscribe. I have a lot of other videos with no waffling at all on the channel, and like, comment to support future videos. I will see you in the next video. I will definitely return to this WT-01 chassis at some time. I also got the Blackfoot 3 and the Mud Blaster 2, which is my son's, and then I got a fully upgraded Wildbagger WR-01. I will see you in the next TTT or Tamiya Talk or Tabletop Talk. Happy holidays and keep them running.